Hello, hello, hello. I think I'm live. I hope you guys can hear me. I don't know if somebody's here, but somebody's here. Can you let me know if you can hear me? We'll get started in some time. Just gonna. Okay. Is somebody here? Join. You can see some one person. Can you hear me clearly? Hi guys. If anybody is on the chat, please do let me know. Um, this is the first time I'm doing a YouTube live, so I hope I get it right. Uh, Okay, I do see some likes. Can somebody just drop a hi to see whether that's working out? Like, if I know, even if there are like two, three people, we can then get started. Okay. Hi, Shrey. Hi, Vedant. Great. Okay. I think we should get started. People can then join in, and I'll try to keep this short. Um, let's see what's happening today. I just opened up Mint. Uh, I think I should do an introduction, right? Like, because it's the first time we're doing this. Hi, guys. Welcome to Around the World by Mocha. This is a session where we help MBA aspirants to understand and make sense of the news. We go through current affairs. We do this regularly, and we've been doing this on Zoom so far. But we are now trying it out with this format where we will discuss current affairs on YouTube live, and then of course keep this uploaded for anyone to see uh, later. So I'm very excited to get started. The structure of these sessions usually are: I share my screen, we go through a few news items, and I tell you how to think about these news items. I don't just share what the news is, but I would also try and give you some strategies as to how to think about it and how you can approach this during your interviews as well. If you guys are have joined in and have interviews, uh, do drop them on the chat so that I know which interviews are when. And yeah, I we can get started. Let's see. An interesting news that has been um, that I thought is worth sharing is forex reserves rise for the fifth straight week, and we hit a record high of $642 billion. and it has been consistently rising. I remember a few mock interview sessions uh, before I had sort of discussed this as well, and that we have been hitting record highs before this as well. I think there is a for people who want to understand what forex reserves are. Forex reserves are assets that are held by a nation's central bank or monetary authority. It is usually held in reserve currencies, usually the US dollar, and to a lesser degree the euro, Japanese yen, and pound sterling. Changes in foreign currency assets expressed in dollar terms include the effect of appreciation or depreciation of other currencies held in its reserves. So, forex reserves are usually forex is short form for foreign exchange, and the news is or the news bite is that we have hit an all-time high in our forex reserve, and usually, forex reserves decline when the cost of imported goods increase, and it is something that you need to keep in mind. So, right now, um, that's not to say that when we hit a all-time high, it's because the cost of imported goods are have declined. When the forex reserve is low, it's usually attributed to um, cost of imported goods moving high. I think they have mentioned it as well. Much of the time, in October 21, the country's foreign exchange reserves last touched their all-time high. Much of the decline after could be attributed to the rise of imported goods in 2022. So that's that. Not too important, but just a very good to know information about about our reserves. Number is $642 billion, and I'm just gonna go check that out. Am I inaudible? Um, I just gotta. Okay. I hope I am audible enough. Okay, the video is lagging. I don't know what to do about that. One second. Let me check if there is anything I can do about that. Uh, I'm just going to assume it's better. Should I stop screen sharing for a bit? Is the video better now? Is it only when I'm sharing my screen when the lag is there? I'm gonna assume it's okay now. Let's get back to the news. Okay. Um, let's check if there are any other um, if there are any other news news headlines that you want me to cover. Do let me know. I am just going through stuff. There are a few headlines I shared on the. Just give me a second. Yeah, just gonna look into this and see what's up. I hope my video. One second, one second. Is my okay? Is everything okay now, guys? Let me know if everything is okay now. I will start then. Shilpi, Shri. Okay. All right. Uh, I'm just gonna check. Uh, yeah, there's an interesting update about Reliance and Adani, which I'm going to cover. Uh, this is the first time Reliance and Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again. Do let me know if it goes blank. Uh, One sec. Is everything okay now? Thanks, Vedant. All right. So, first time both these tycoons have come together for something, and it's essentially. I'm sorry about this. Okay, yeah, and it's based in Madhya Pradesh, if I'm not wrong, and uh, Reliance is going to pick up 26% stake in a power project of Gautam Adani and signed a pact to use the plant's 500 megawatt. Uh, MW is megawatt. Yep, of electricity for captive use. And the reason why Reliance had to do this is interestingly because the government has a rule. I'll tell you what the rule is. Um, Under the electricity rules 2005, um, I think a company has to, to avail the benefits of captive user policy. RIL will hold a 26% ownership stake in the captive unit, proportionate to the total capacity of the power plant. The company will invest, I think that's 5 lakh shares, equity shares, which amounts to 50 crores for the partnership stake. And but yeah, to take comment, and it's an interesting update. It's an update. Two global tycoons coming together. There are a few that were for this to take place as well, uh, which tells you that both of these tycoons are in good terms with the government. So that helped them in this deal. I'm just gonna check for any other news um, that that I wanted to cover. Just give me a second. And Adani also did, increased its stake in Ambuja Cement to 66%. It was already a majority shareholder, but it also infused somewhere around 6,000 crores in Ambuja Cements recently, taking its stake to 66% now. And I'm just gonna check for anything else I've missed out on. Interesting news from the startups is coffee lovers out. Subco raised fresh round of funding. I think it's around $10 million. The reason why I mention this is that when you do go for your interviews, there will of course be always they'll ask you, what are you interested in, um, what are the things that you like doing, and drinking coffee is something that has become quite cool in India. And it Subco Coffee recently grabbed $10 million in funding, I think, which is a Series A funding, if I'm not wrong. I don't know if it's a Series A, but let me just check. Or I think it's seed. Actually, they haven't mentioned what. Okay, it's a Series B round. Got it. Uh, it's a Series B round, and it's grabbed $10 million in funding for anybody who's interested in coffee. There is a prominent coffee culture happening in India where we are brewing our own coffee, specialty coffee. There is Subco, there is Third Wave Coffee, multiple of such roasteries that are opening up, and their ambition is not to sort of have small scale outlets like open one cafe. This is, I think, the third wave cafe actually gets its name from the third wave of coffee culture in India, and it's a wave where you have Indians who are willing to spend more on coffee and on social gatherings like these. So a $10 million funding is pretty huge for a offline outlet. And another interesting trend is that a lot of these startups that are getting funded right now are all of these brick and mortar startups, primarily because there is some sort of mistrust in the profitability of a tech startup currently. Not all tech startups. I think AI startups are doing okay, but there is a renewed interest for brick and mortar startups in India because there is just, I think, for solid businesses with great unit economics that are offline, they just work really well. So it's a news that you can use to your advantage during your interviews, especially if you're a fan of coffee. If they ask you, what have you read in the past few days, you can say I'm a huge coffee fan, and it's interesting to see how Subco Coffee that has come out of India has by 10 million in funding, and then you can talk about the coffee culture that's rising in India and how it's in direct um correlation with India's spending culture, which is increasing day by day. So that's another interesting news that I have mentioned. For Yeah, filter coffee was ranked second. Of course, correct, Sheena. Thanks for that input as well. That's absolutely right. Another thing that's interesting about India's political scene is that Arvind Kejriwal, a sitting chief minister of Delhi, is in jail and has been arrested for yeah, Srinath, maybe Karan is helping with the coffee business. I see this while holding a Starbucks cup. It's just quite interesting. Hi, Shilpi. I hope my audio and video stream is visible now. Unless I think it's absolutely necessary, I won't share my screen. I will just tell you what the news is, and then you can talk about. Because I think there is some lag in me sharing my screen. But why the Arvind Kejriwal news is interesting is because, of course, he is in jail. The enforcement directorate has um, sort of brought him to custody, and he went to court, and the court extended custody to the ED till the 1st of April. And there are allegations that these institutions of enforcement directorate, CBI, are being and income tax are being used by the state machinery. Now, when I say state, that's the government, to essentially exploit the opposition, try and drain their funds. Congress has been slapped with with an income tax notice as well. uh, they have also taken some money from Congress. I don't know what the amount is. I think it was around 170 crores, if I'm not wrong. But all of this is interesting because I am not here to pass judgment. I will leave that up to you. But there is an interesting way of a lot of these ED and income tax, notices being slapped left, right, and center right during the election time. It's a very interesting turn of events. I don't know if this is standard. I don't know if this happened in the Congress era as well. Maybe it did in some capacity, but I do think the government has larger control over these institutions now. Whether they're using it to their benefit or not is open for discussion. But Arvind Kejriwal is currently in jail. He argued his case, and he kept his case. There's an interesting 8-minute video where he kept his own case in front of the High Court, where he is like, there have been like thousands. Yeah, Srinath, I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that as well. Uh, there are thousands and thousands of uh, pages that have been sort of that the CBI, the charge sheet of CBI was somewhere around 31,000 pages is what Arvind Kejriwal said, and he says that my name has been mentioned 4 times, and even in then there is no direct correlation to my name anywhere, yet I am being held hostage here. And there is another interesting fact that he mentions, that there was somebody who was also mentioned multiple times in the charge sheet, and the ED actually put a notice on him as well. This is a businessman who's in question, and then that businessman donates uh, money to the BJP through electoral bonds, which is also an interesting connection to the Arvind Kejriwal case. There are multiple things coming together, and Arvind Kejriwal's like AAP was able to make a case because of the electoral bonds, and then they said the minute he donated 50 crores to BJP, everything went away. So who is who's actually guilty here? That was Arvind Kejriwal's case. He's still been given custody. ED has been given custody of Kejriwal until the 1st of um April. But it'll be interesting to see how the public perceives this. Does the public of Delhi, of course, here I'm talking in because Arvind Kejriwal is in Delhi, and I want to see how many Lok Sabha seats that Aam Aadmi Party is able to get. Because do they think of this as an attack on democracy, or do they see this as, oh, one party that we thought will be non-corrupt also turned out to be corrupt? So it'll be very interesting to see how that pans out. It is, if you guys have your interviews close to April, I definitely do recommend keeping a track of the Arvind Kejriwal case, because this is the first time, as Srinath clearly mentioned, is the first time there is foreign intervention. There is Germany and US saying that they're concerned about the turn of affairs, because during elections, um, or during general elections, or the time leading up to the general elections, it's a very very sensitive time. It's a time when the public in a true democracy should be left to make a decision by themselves without getting too influenced by either parties, or any party for that matter. Currently it seems like one party is able to do things really well in terms of being able to control the narrative, or at least it seems like it. Uh, so so it but in a true democracy, when you guys get this question, you should uphold the fact that it should be independent. A voter, all of us are voters, and contribute to this nation's development by voting. We should be left to our own critical thinking during this time to decide whom to choose and whom not to choose. And that's the sort of stance you should take as well while um, talking about these topics, because it will come up if you have your interviews in April. April is the time when general elections are starting, so you're bound to be asked a few questions about it. They will want to know or understand: is this student aware about what's happening in their country, and are they interested? So you need to be able to come across as somebody who is very very interested in this. So I would recommend shifting your strategy a little bit and focusing more on India specific news now. um, S is asking to explain the Apple US government row. I will have to check what that's about. Can you expand what's happening there? Let me see. Maybe I missed out on this. Let me check what's happening. There's always something happening between Apple and the US government, so that's not new. But let me check what's happening now. Oh, correct. It's an antitrust suit. That makes sense. So S has asked us to cover this as well. So the US government is saying that Apple has massive, has incredible market power and is functioning as a monopoly. And it's something that the government is arguing that. Let me just see what the US government is saying. Um, US is suing Apple for and accusing it to maintain a monopoly. The Justice Department and 16 state attorney generals filed an antitrust suit against, Apple. And okay, just give me 2 minutes. I'm just going to quickly skim through the news so that I'm able to help you guys form an opinion about this. Okay, got it. Got it. I think I've sort of gotten what uh, the news is about. So the U.S. government and multiple governments, Srinath, you're correct. The EU is also finding Apple, for that matter. What you guys need to understand is that most of these big tech companies, uh, by design, are trying to ensure that there is a huge barrier to exit and there is a huge switching cost. It's called a switching cost. You can use these terms while mentioning this in your interview as well, that these tech companies try and ensure that there's a huge switching cost between you switching to any other company. For example, if once you're a part of the Apple ecosystem, it becomes really difficult for you to switch to anything else. So you, in that sense, Apple is able to create a monopoly of you being fixed in this ecosystem. It also limits the way you interact with other devices, other things, other companies as well. Android is more interoperable like that. You can have a Galaxy Android phone and a Google Pixel as well, and they'll be able to very well interact with each other. But Apple seems to not have that, and the US government is having a problem with that. It's like this is giving you too much power and is making you too out of reach with other competitors, because this is not a level playing ground. Now the courts haven't decided it yet. The US government has definitely sued them, and they would want to see you would want to see how this plays out. Apple Wallet is the only app that the iPhone can use the chip in, used NFC, and Apple refuses to allow game streaming apps that could make iPhone a less valuable piece of hardware or offer super apps. These are all arguments that the government is sort of stating them, and we'll see how this pans out. There is also another lawsuit that the government has filed against Google as well. So you can just see that the government's job is to ensure that the market is competitive and is fair play for everyone. This is this will be an interesting turn of events, but I am assuming that Apple will be able to successfully defend themselves, uh, because Apple's market cap and Apple's contribution to the US economy is far superior. While that's not a solid case for Apple, I'm sure they'll be able to make a stronger case for themselves. But US is always huge on lobbying and being able to get a backdoor for that matter. But an interesting place where Apple actually lost was the European Union, where it had to switch from Lightning cables to a Type C, saying that citing recycling and just environmental concerns. So and Apple had to switch. So Apple is now all Type C from its Lightning connector, which is a welcome move in my opinion. But while discussing these news, you can just keep in mind that big tech is, to summarize, big tech will always try to optimize to increase switching costs for you to be able to for you to they'll make it very difficult for you to switch from one technology to another, and Apple does this the best. So you just need to keep that in mind and see how you want to sort of shape that news. Now, before wrapping up today's session, we'll go for one last news. If there are topics that you want me to cover, let me know in the chat box. I'll be happy to cover them um, as well. Just want to check if there is news that I haven't covered. We talked about politics. We talked about Kejriwal. We talked about coffee. We talked about Ambani and Adani, forex reserves. Uh, just want to check if there is anything else that we missed out on. Let me know if there is anything that you want me to cover. Um, for any mechanical engineers here or anybody who's an engineer, the Baltimore bridge collapse is a very interesting case that you global case that you need to cover. Um, I will just open it up for here and. So the Baltimore Bridge essentially collapse is something that you need to understand in terms of what went wrong in the engineering. What is it that they could do better to build good bridges? What can India do better to build more solid bridges? What are the things or concerns that we need to keep, especially civil engineers? I'm sorry, I think I said mechanical. I apologize. What I meant is civil engineers and architects. Anybody who's applying for these schools now, um, this will be a part of your technical knowledge. They will ask you, did you follow the Baltimore bridge collapse, and what do you think about it? What went wrong? If you were a engineer there, or if you were a civil engineer or an architect, what would you ensure to see that something like this doesn't happen again? And I'm just gonna check if they've mentioned. And a very interesting way to connect this would be for people who are having, say, IIM Mumbai calls. Um Try to connect Baltimore Bridge and say the Gokhale Bridge for that matter, and see while both are not, of course, uh, not comparable in terms of the scale and the magnitude. Uh, but I think I'm just gonna see what engineers have said so far about the collapse. Um, Experts say that it may be too early to say what exactly happened during the collision and the collapse that resulted, but they caution that bridges of this kind are specifically built with protections against such crashes, and it may have required a huge impact to make the bridge fall in this way. So people are saying it's too early to say whether the bridge collapsed because of a structural fault. But I'm just gonna see. The Francis Scott Key Bridge was relatively modern, so experts would expect it was built with the assumption that its supporting piers might have experienced a collision. Those piers are important because any structural failure in them, especially in the center, means that the whole bridge would collapse. So, so we don't know what happened, but it is something that we can sort of. Um, Modern navigation technology should have prevented the ship from striking the pier, uh, but the technologies failed on the ship, which is an interesting uh, discovery, or which is an interesting point, and it's called a progressive collapse. So just check the Baltimore Bridge collapse also. I think it's an interesting news, especially if you're a civil engineer. Uh, but I think that's it. Uh, I think we've covered enough for today. I don't know if this format is the best. If the ones who are still a part of the live, please do let me know if you prefer this format. If you guys have been for the Zoom session as well. Um, I honestly prefer the Zoom session because it's more private. But for in the interest of scale, I think a live streaming makes much more sense. Uh, but do let me know if there is anything that I can change in the format. The idea is to keep this very casual. Just talk about news, talk about how to think about the news, and to just be aware about whatever is happening around the world, especially when we step into these interviews, for that matter. So do let me know if the format's good. I'm just gonna leave. Uh, yeah, I agree with S. Zoom over this. Uh, because this is quite one way in the way of communication. But happy to do whatever the audience wants me to. Um, I still, regardless, have fun to sort of just have a chat with you guys, understand um, where you got, what are the issues that you want me to cover, how can you think about it. So do let me know. Um I will have a discussion with my team as well if we want to continue doing this or should we do Zoom. Uh, but that's all from my end. Thank you so much for being a part of this YouTube live of around the world. As always, I always have a lot of fun just having a chat about the news. But thank you so much for joining in, and for the ones who stayed till the end, I really appreciate it. And I will see you in another live or a Zoom call, whatever we decide to move ahead with. But that's all. Thank you so much. Have a great long weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.